Hey guys, my name's Nico. I sing and play guitar in a band called Now in Color, and this week I bought an album called Modal Soul by Nujabes.
Light as a feather when I'm floating through, reading through the daily news, measuring the hurt within the golden rule. Centimeters of ether, I'm heating the speaker. Motivational teacher with words that burn people. Singing the headlines, line with discord. It's either genocide or the planet in uproar. Never good, the rules in paradise are never nice. The best laid plans of mice and men are never right. I'm just a vagabond with flowers for Algernon and average.
Make the mic fly.
Resurrection. What the hell it means to put time to perspective. Add a soundtrack to your life and perfect it. Whenever you are, feel the flow, keep walking and we can't get far. Wherever you are, what the hell it means to put time to perspective. Add a soundtrack to your life and perfect it. Whenever you are, feel the flow, keep walking and we can't get far. Wherever you are, like a movie that you can't predict, like a book that you can't resist. I sing along a song that's so sensual. Bring along a sip to make it all so sexual. Verbally, that is making love to the music means vibing to the beat at night. With the whole city fast asleep. Out cold, true words seem to rise to the lips. Take hold of a poet of me most powerfully. I feel free when the world doesn't know it to me. It's so hard to find a gig that lives up to the billing. Trying to find a reason to work out, willing not.
So Nujabes is the moniker of a Japanese producer and composer whose name is Jun Seba, or as they say in Japan is Seba Jun, which is just Nujabes reversed basically. And Modal Soul is his second full-length album. It came out in 2005, which is quite a long time ago now. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that Modal Soul is, in terms of instrumental hip-hop, jazzy hip-hop, chill-hop, it is the definitive release in that genre. And if you've never heard it before, if you listen to it now, you'll realize just how many other musicians have been so heavily influenced by this. And I guess his two other big full-length records, which are Metaphorical Music and Spiritual State. There are a lot of people who have copied his sound directly, but I don't think it's actually possible to really emulate him. Like, still, I'll hear stuff of his that I haven't heard on a shuffle playlist, and you just know straight away because there's something about his DNA that makes it into every track that he works on. So Modal Soul is quite a long album. I think it's 15 or 16 tracks, something like that. And the way that he constructs these records is he'll take samples from older songs, particularly in old American hip-hop, R&B, soul music, jazz as well, from the 60s and 70s and 80s. And he'll chop it up and basically rearrange that with percussion and drum beats into a song. And that's how he makes his music. So the album's split about 50-50 between music that has rappers featured on it, and there's a number of American artists featured on there, as well as some Japanese rappers as well. And the other half of the album is purely instrumental music, and that side of things kind of flows quite freely between jazz and hip-hop and even kind of modern kind kind of soundtrack music, like instrumental strings and that kind of thing, which is not surprising because if you've ever heard of the anime Samurai Champloo, the whole soundtrack to that anime was done by Nujabes. And not to digress too much, but there's another very famous anime called Cowboy Bebop, which has a jazz soundtrack that was done by Yoko Kanno. So if you've heard of that, jazz and Cowboy Bebop and Yoko Kanno are kind of the equivalent of Samurai Champloo and Nujabes and hip hop. So if you've seen either one but not the other, I definitely recommend you check out the other one. But back to the record, it's interesting because to me, the songs that people think of when they think of Modal Soul are generally the ones that I feel are not actually that heavily representative of Nujabes' style. So Feather and Lovesick Part 3 are undoubtedly, I think, the most popular songs or the most well-known songs of this record. They both have rappers featured on them. And they're both obviously just incredible songs in their own right. But to me, Nujabes' real unique style really comes out in his instrumentals. And you get the feeling from listening to his music that he's quite a... not necessarily nostalgic, but quite a sentimental guy. Generally, like, things have obviously a very retro feel to them already because all of the music that's sampled for the record is quite old generally. But when you listen to songs like Reflection Eternal, like the I don't know, there's something heartbreaking about the intervals and the melodies and the chord progressions that he uses in a way that, is very sentimental. And like I always use the word nostalgic to describe certain types of music, but I think it is kind of a good fit here. So I think Reflection Eternal is probably my favorite song on the record, just because whenever it comes up on shuffle, it always pulls me out of whatever else I'm doing. If I'm listening to music on shuffle while working, if I hear Reflection Eternal, I kind of just have to stop and listen to it. And one of the features on Reflection Eternal is something that he does so well, which is that he'll take an old sample and he'll put it over the top of a track that he's working on. In this case, on Reflection Eternal, it's that the singer at the end going, "You're a river, you're a rainbow." That part is so wrong for the track. Like the dissonance is so palpable. That last note that the singer ends on, but it just works so perfectly for some reason. Like, he's managed to take two pieces of music that should not work together and put them together in a way that creates this tension and then resolves it so perfectly. And that's a theme that you'll hear across all of his music, basically. There are little bits where you'll be like, oh, no, this sample doesn't work. This doesn't work with the track. And then you listen to it and you're like, oh, he's made it work somehow. He's a magician in that way. I kind of didn't want to mention it because I think it kind of detracts from his legacy in some way. But unfortunately, he actually passed away in a car accident a few years ago. And the reason that I didn't want to bring it up immediately at the beginning, talking about this record, was that I like to think of his music as something that stands on his own. And even if he was still alive, I would hope that his music wouldn't be any less popular. Like, I would hate to think that it's gained this level of popularity in some part due to the fact that people consider it to be a rare commodity now because he's not able to make any more. But yeah, anyway, rest in peace. It was a absolutely terrible loss to the music community in general. But luckily he made a lot of music and it's all out on streaming services now, when it wasn't before, so you can go and listen to it. And I highly recommend just going through his whole discography. You can put it on shuffle, in the background while you have friends over, having something to eat or drink. It's a perfect soundtrack to a relaxed afternoon, really. But you can sit down to it and actively listen to it and still get a lot out of it as well. So yeah, my favorite track's Reflection Eternal. I love the stretch of 5 or 6 instrumental tracks off the end of the record. So yeah, please go and check out Modal Soul and support Nujabi's estate essentially, and which will allow them to continue to have this kind of music available.